Hey, folks, I'm Doug Haney, Executive Director of Polyphony Music Resources. And today I'm pleased to be here with my friend and colleague Keith Reaves, who is Minister of Music at First Baptist Church, Rome, Georgia, in Northwest Georgia. And we are celebrating the fact that Keith has been Minister of Music at Rome for 25 years as of June of this past summer. So, first of all, Keith, congratulations to you for this auspicious anniversary, and really want folks to know who you are and what you're up to. And so thanks for spending some time with me here this morning.
Thanks. Glad to do it.
Yeah. I thought in case folks don't know you, maybe tell us just something about your backstory, your background, where you were reared, home church, early influences, maybe early teachers, where you served before landing at First Baptist Rome 25 years ago.
Mm. Well, I grew up in a little town in southeast Arkansas, Wilmer, Arkansas. At the
Wilmer.
time, 718 was the population. We had 23 in our senior class.
Oh my.
And it was, of course, a very small rural area, rural church. On a big day, we would have 75 people there.
Hmm.
But when I was 4, I began playing the piano by ear. And of course, the church allowed me to play whenever I wanted to. I do remember playing for worship for the first time when I was 6. And so from then on, the church was just a huge encourager of giving me all kinds of opportunities to play, to sing, to do whatever I wanted to do. They had a little organ there. They said, "Oh, go play on the organ." So I,
Okay. Yeah.
at 12 or 13 was trying to learn pedals on the organ and that kind of stuff. But just great, wonderful people. And the church is still there now. My mother is still in the church, and they're down
Oh,
to probably 30 on Sunday morning now. But
I love that.
a
Yeah.
great, just a great place to grow up, just one of those small town things. After graduating from high school, I moved way up to Northwest Arkansas and went to the University of Arkansas in
Okay.
Fayetteville, and got very involved at First Baptist Church in Fayetteville when I was there. Um, I wanted a church that was not the college church. I wanted a church that had moms and dads and grandmothers and grandfathers and families and that kind of thing. And so immediately got involved in the choir and stuff there. It was, of course, the largest church I'd ever been a part of before, and it was great. Mark Short was the minister of music while I was there, and he was very encouraging. It's really the first time I think in that church that the thought of being a music minister kind of
Hmm.
came into my head.
Right.
Um, I sang in the choir at the university. I sang in the choir there. I was in musicals, did all that kind of stuff, but did not major in music. Undergrad, I love to write. And so I majored in combined major of political science and journalism, wrote for the school newspaper and that kind of stuff. Didn't think about doing music because I was afraid all I would wind up doing is teaching sweaty middle school kids, and I knew I didn't want to do that. And I
That, oh,
still
that,
feel
that's
like,
that's not
so
very compelling, is it?
no, that's right. So met my future wife there at the First Baptist Church in Sunday school. So go to Sunday school, kids, when you're in college. You never know, never know who you might meet. Um, and then we moved to Little Rock after graduated, got married a year later after we moved to Little Rock, where I took a job with the newspaper. I was a copy editor, and it
Okay.
was a great experience there. And then did that for a little while. And while we were in Little Rock, we joined and became very active at Emmanuel Baptist Church
Mm.
Little Rock, and that's was just a huge time of spiritual growth for us. We were young married. The young married department was
Yeah.
huge and made lots of still friends that we have today in that church. Brian Harbour was the pastor, and he was
Oh.
just wonderful. Lynn Madden was the minister of
Mhm.
music at the time, and that's when I really, during an Easter rehearsal,
Hmm.
really felt a strong call from God to actual words that saying this is what you're supposed to be doing. And so that's when I
Hmm.
kind of thought, okay, Lord, I hear you. And
Sure.
so I went and talked to Lynn about it, went and talked to Brian about it. And both of them were like, well, you just got to go to seminary. That's just what you got
Right.
to do.
That's what you did.
And of course, Lynn was a big Southwestern guy, and there was no other choice. Of course, you got to go to Southwestern. So we left
This is
Little Rock.
back in the day, right?
That's right. That's
Back
right.
in the
And it
day.
was the place to go,
It was. Yeah.
So we left and went to seminary with a 3-year-old and a 2-month-old,
Mm,
and moved into Fort Worth in January of 91. And we wound up staying there 3.5 years because I didn't have an undergrad in music. I had to take some things to catch me up, which I was very thankful
mm,
as well. We started out at University Baptist in Fort Worth with Joel
yep.
Michael and
Sure.
worked there for, well, I really didn't work volunteer there about the first year, and then moved over to Park Cities Baptist in Dallas and worked there the last probably 2.5 years, working with, I consider, legendary Charles Worley.
Indeed. Indeed.
Was
Sure.
my guy there,
Wow.
and just a wonderful mentor, friend. Taught me so much about
Mm,
music ministry and how things work and don't work.
mhm.
It was a
Yeah.
larger scale operation than anything I'd ever been a part of, and I soon discovered it was probably a larger scale than anything I wanted to be a part of.
Ah,
I'm
wow.
not sure after that. It was a great experience,
Right.
but I kind of want to know all the names of my choir members, and I couldn't even know. It was just a
Wow.
huge choir, and
Sure.
3 or 4 thousand people in Sunday school. My wife had grown up in that church. She was born in Dallas, so it was fun for
Interesting.
her to go back to
Yeah.
the cities, and she's remembered as a little girl the scripture across the top on the in the
Yes.
sanctuary and that kind of
Right.
thing. So
Right.
that was a great experience, and it was
Yeah.
good for us. After we graduated from there, I had a job offer and a call to First Baptist Church of Atmore, Alabama.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
so that's down right on the Florida line, about
Right.
an
Right.
hour from Pensacola, an hour from Mobile. We stayed there 5 years, and it was again just a perfect first church for us out of seminary, with lots of welcoming, amazing people, very encouraging pastor Kelly Brown, and just lots of freedom to try new things, because
Mm,
I think
mhm.
at the time I was the first full-time music minister they'd had there. So it was just a great experience. And so
Wonderful.
then, stayed there 5 years, and then we moved to Rome in 1999, and became minister of music and senior adults here at the
Okay.
time. We've been here ever since. Joel Snyder was pastor here for my
Right.
first 17 years, and Joel and I are just really, really good friends, work well together. And so
Mhm.
it was a great experience to start off again there in Rome, here in Rome.
Yeah. 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 The rest is history, right?
All right.
And that's one of the things we want to talk about is the wonderful arc of history
Mhm.
at Rome. So I want you to think back to the early years.
Mhm.
You think back that far, Keith?
That's well, I think back, I had dark hair and I had hair.
Okay. All right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
1999.
No,
So
no judgment. No judgment, Uh, but I do want you to reflect back maybe on let's say the first 5 years,
okay.
give or take. What challenges do you remember that you faced as you built trust
Mhm.
and you established your ministry? And also, did you follow someone with a long tenure?
I
So
did.
anyway, just jump in there.
Um, since 1960, our church, including me, has had two ministers of music.
Oh my,
So yes, I followed someone that had been here 38 years
good
before me.
gracious.
Kenneth Moyers was his name.
Huh.
And I think the church did a very wise thing after somebody had been here that long. It was a long interim. They took about 2 years
Oh, really? Okay.
before I came on, and Kenneth had built a wonderful musical uh, legacy here. It was great music, a great
Mhm.
tradition of worship here, great church. And so I think it was good to give the congregation time to grieve his retirement and his moving on, and kind of get over him
Yeah,
for
sure.
a
Yeah,
bit.
yeah.
And then gave him some time then to look forward to some new leadership.
Right. That was
And
very
so
wise, I
it was
think.
very helpful
Yeah.
for me not to be the new guy a month later that came in and
Wow.
wanted to try to do. the woman who was the interim is still on staff here at the church. She's
Mm.
uh, now does minister of extended families, what we call here. But she was great to make some changes that probably needed to be changes in the interim, so that it
I
didn't fall on
see.
me to do that. So
Right.
it was a good thing. Immediately had the support of the pastor and the staff when I came on. I had lots of people who were obviously really good friends with my predecessor. And I wondered now, looking back on it, if they talked to each other, but over the first month I was here, they made appointments to come in and specifically say to me, "You are our minister of music, and we're behind you 100%, and we're so excited you're here." So, which
Wow.
was
How
very
very,
encouraging.
yeah, how very generous.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, that first year, I really didn't change a lot
Good.
of
Yeah.
in the worship service. I wanted to see what worked and what didn't work, what fit me and my style.
Hmm.
At the time, they had just hired because he was a he did organ and choir at the same time, so we had to hire an organist.
So
Uh,
your predecessor was an
right,
organist choir master.
right, that's right.
Oh, oh wow,
So he
that marks
played
off
actually
the
the console was in the center of the choir loft and
background.
that kind of thing. And so in the interim, they hired a terrific organist who's still here today. I mean, the organist and pianist and I have all been together for more than 25 years,
Wow,
which
that's
is
great.
another spoiled thing here, because
Yeah, yeah.
I can lift an eyebrow and they know, what to do.
Yeah. Okay.
Uh, but anyway, that first year, just kind of wanted to see what worked and what didn't work, and then moved very slowly to make some changes obviously, with the pastor and his guidance and help as well. So, from the very beginning here and also at Atmore, I used Isaiah 6 as my kind of order of worship.
Okay.
Had learned that from Dr. Bruce Leafblad when I was at seminary, and just found it to be very helpful to me as how to plan a service that's
Hmm.
biblical. And also, I had this fear that one day Dr. Leafblad might walk into a service and give me a grade, just in case, expiation was not
Oh
there.
my
I would
goodness,
be in
the
be in
insecure
trouble.
the insecurities of
That's
young
right.
church musicians, right? Let's just name it.
That's right. And still today, if he walked in, I would tremble probably, So,
Oh my, that's funny.
uh, but I slowly began to kind of teach the congregation about that and why we do what we do, and the importance of sort of a theme of the day. We've always done that. Here's the theme of this service, and try to weave some sort of a thread of that theme throughout everything we do in the worship service. And so I challenge the congregation to ask questions after worship. But if you don't see why this hymn fit the theme, or why this solo didn't work, or why did we do this, come ask me and I'll explain to you why. I take a lot of time crafting these services, and
Okay.
this is why we're doing this. And so if I'm going to offer that challenge, then I have to be able to back it up.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's always kind of always be sure to have an answer ready for that. And even today, we still follow, that specific theme every week through the prayers and the hymns and the sermon and the music
Hmm.
and readings or whatever. And I've sort of always had this philosophy that I, most of these people are only going to be here an hour a week. That's all we get, 1 hour a
Right,
week.
right.
And so we just cannot waste a minute of that hour.
Mm,
Everything has to
nice.
be totally focused, help us focus
Yeah,
on God, keep our minds and affections on God during that time, because, there's so many distractions. But if
sure,
we can just
sure.
keep that time, and even the lay people that help lead the services all know how serious we take that hour each
Right,
week.
right.
Yeah.
How and how wonderful that you, it sounds like from very early years, you kind of created this invitation to have a
Mhm.
conversation about what are we up to here?
Mhm.
And if whether it's the architecture,
Mhm.
the arc of our service, or something in the fine print, I'm happy to have a conversation with you about that.
Mhm. Mhm.
What a wonderful reciprocity and a way to engage the people in the pew.
Mhm. Well, yesterday I had lunch with a young man who had visited the last couple weeks. He's mid-30s and not your typical person who you would think would be visiting our church. I mean, we have obviously people that age here, but he had found the worship service to be very meaningful to him. He's tried some other places in town that were more theatrical, were
Yeah,
his words.
yeah. His
But
words. Okay.
so I just sat down and said, okay, let me tell you what I do every week,
Okay.
and walked through Isaiah 6. And he said, I just knew there was more to it than just,
Ah,
yeah, and so he just was really had tons of questions came. So just knowing that people know that you put a lot of thought and time into, it's not just throwing some songs together and,
yeah,
you know,
right.
doing it, I
Just
think
as
they expect more now when they come to work.
nice. Yeah, yeah.
So,
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Thank you for that. So maybe shifting gears just a little bit, um, what has brought you the greatest joy when you look back over the years, and particularly what are the aspects of your work that you particularly love? If you did not get to do those things, it just wouldn't be worth the journey. So, comment on joys and the things that you love to do.
well, one of the joys of being here this long has been, we call it, I don't know if there's a word for it, but I have people in my choir, my adult choir now, who have worn all three colors. They have worn the children's choir white, they have worn the youth choir red, and now they're in the adult black. And they think they're in a little club, because they've been with Mr. Keith
Okay.
since elementary school. And so that has brought
Huh.
me a lot of joy to see them stick with it, over those times, and to still love music, still love leading in worship,
Yeah.
and to for them to still get joy in
Hmm.
singing. And none
Hmm.
of them are, professional musicians or anything. They just love to sing and to continue to stay with us. Some of them have gone off to college and then moved back to Rome, but then have rejoined the choir. So that's been fun. They
Oh,
always
that's
laugh
so
about
wonderful.
the three color
Yeah, the
members or
three
whatever
colors.
are there.
But maybe it's the tricolor
That's
club.
right. That's right.
Uh,
We have a tradition that I started. It's called Christmas at First Baptist, and we try to do instead of spreading I know how busy families are, and so instead of having a program every Sunday during Advent, I decided when I first came, we're going to have one big blowout, and we're going to do it at one time. And so in that concert, um, which we're going in, this is the 26th annual this year. The
okay.
adult choir and orchestra have the main part of it, but the children's choir participates, the handbells participate, the youth choir participates. It's a chance, obviously, for youth and children's choirs, especially to sing with orchestra, which they don't always get to do. I'm able to have some college interns sing with me from Berry College here in town. So even Berry, as great as its music department is, doesn't always have orchestra with everything. And so the
Hmm.
kids love that opportunity. Um, when we were in, I think it's 2006, the choir did a choir tour of England and Scotland and Wales. And we participated in the International Church Music Festival at Chester Cathedral.
Hmm.
And Paul Eddington Wright kind of put that together, and David Wilcox conducted the group.
Wow.
But they have hymns of praise or songs of praise. Is songs of praise the BBC program anyway?
Yes,
That's
I
a
think
big
it is
thing.
songs of
Every week
praise.
they
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
sing hymns for 30 minutes, and it's like one of the biggest TV shows in Britain or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
And so the choir was able to do a recording, and we were on songs of praise for that week. But Paul had an arrangement I saw later with all the choirs of Michael Card's Emmanuel. And so I called Paul and said, can we just use that? And we said, of course, take it, do it. And so we all, for, I don't know, 15 or 20 years now, we closed that program with Emmanuel, where the
Nice.
youth choir starts singing, the children come in, the adults, and this is so silly to say, but there's not a dry in the house. I mean,
Sure,
people just
sure.
love the promise of that text, plus
Right.
just seeing the kids graduate and grow older and older into different ways. And so it's also become First Baptist's gift to the community, our Christmas gift, because the church is packed out with community people that come because we do it in the afternoon. So everybody's invited, and it's become a big kind of Rome tradition to come to Christmas at First
Mhm.
Baptist. So
Hmm.
we're delighted that we are able to provide that for the community. And if nobody comes back to join the choir, join the church, they leave the church knowing, number one, where the church is, and
Right.
number two, having a good feeling about the church, and
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
what we are. So um, those things, plus, of course, just being with families, and growing with families, good times and bad,
Yeah.
has been very special. The thing that I love still doing, even after all these years, is goes back to something I said before, is I just still love the challenge of planning worship every week. I
Mm.
love to pull my stuff out, get the Bible out, the hymnal out, resources, and
Yeah.
just see what kind of surprise or what kind of little turn that we can do this week that will make what we do that week memorable enough for it to stick with people for the rest of the week to carry them into the next week. So
Mm.
um, I think I mentioned I also do senior adult ministry as well. And so we have been able to travel a lot, which has been fun. We've gone to more than 20 countries over my time here, and they love to get together. And that's a great opportunity to build relationships. If you're stuck on a bus for 10 days with people,
Yeah.
you
Right.
learn
Right.
to get along, or you
You better like them.
so it's always like the balcony people are like, I didn't know you. You sit on the floor, but now we know each other because you only
Right.
come in and you don't
Yeah.
ever I see you down there, but I don't know who
That's
you are.
great.
So
Lots of senior adult groups have names in church. What's your group's
we
name?
don't we just we've
No,
never done that.
you've never done that. Okay, good.
We ought to do that, I suppose, but
No, I'm not saying you should. And some of them, believe me, are pretty cheesy.
that's right.
Pretty, let's just name it, so okay,
That's right.
we'll press on. Well,
That's right.
I love the smile and the glow that I see as you talk about all the joy and the things that you've loved to do, and this the power of staying in a place for so long, from generation to generation, right?
Mhm.
As the
Right.
scripture says, and there's something so wonderful and rich about that. And yet, without getting now too specific, because I know things can be, we need to be circumspect.
Right.
Not everything has been a bed of roses in
Right.
25 years. And so, whatever those hard times were, can you talk about a little bit about how you got through them, how you endured them, how you remained resilient in spite of the difficulty of the moment?
Mhm.
What wisdom would you share about the hard times?
Well, um, about 12 years ago, they added a title to me, senior associate.
Hmm.
And so that just kind of means when the pastor's gone, I'm the man that everybody turns to, or I make the decisions. And so uh, we've had two interims since I've been here. And so during those interim times, I take on all the duties of the pastor except for preaching, in
Right,
addition to what's going on. And
right, right.
so that has been, that was a challenge. The last one was the last interim was also in the middle of COVID. So just the challenge of, are we ever coming back? Are we ever gonna, how do
Hmm.
we keep people engaged by instead of just watching the screen every week?
Yeah, yeah.
What do we, of course, we had a fantastic staff. I mean, I can't say enough. The staff members are my best friends. I mean, because that's just what happened. But um, I knew that during those times, um, first of all, I have a very wonderful wife and family who I know loves me, prays for me, cares about the ministry here because the kids grew up in the ministry here.
Mm.
Um, Even though they're in their own churches in the Atlanta area now, I know that that was there when I came home. The other thing is, I don't know of a more supportive or encouraging bunch of people
Mm.
than I have here at this church. And I know that when dozens of these people are saying, we are praying for you, they are praying for me. I mean, they're not just meet me and they really meant it. And so during those times, especially the second interim with the COVID stuff going on and all that was going on at that time, um, it was just, it wasn't easy, but it was not as hard as it could have been,
Huh.
knowing that people were supportive and caring. And so that was a good, you know,
Lovely.
that was a good thing.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And I think, part of that is because I've been here so long, I knew them so well. So
Okay.
they they knew me well. They trusted that
Yeah.
decisions I was making were not something I was doing on the, flying by the seat of my pants on these things, working with other committees or church members or deacons or whatever to make some hard decisions about when we come back, or how long do we have to sit this far apart, or but
Oh, man.
everybody was ready to come back, but it was never a time of just angst for me of, oh no, what do I do? Because people were very patient
Hmm.
and supportive, and so that was great.
Hmm.
I think
Yeah. Go ahead.
thinking about one other thing that's hard, or has been hard, because of this long tenure, I'm finding it the further I get into this, that deaths of church members and choir members are a lot more painful, a lot
Mm,
more heartbreaking for me
yeah.
than when I first came. When we moved here, the closest family the four of us had were 500 miles away.
Uh-huh.
And so these people became my kids' grandparents. They became my parents. They became brothers and sisters to me. They were with us through good times and bad times in our family. And so when you lose those people to death,
Mm.
it's not as, I won't ever say it was ever easy, but I think you know what I'm saying. It's felt in a more deep way
Oh, yeah.
because you just know
Sure.
them so well.
Right.
They're your
Right.
friends.
Right.
And
Right.
so,
Right.
that's another kind of a hard thing about being here, but it's a good thing too. So
Right.
because you have those relationships. So
Right. 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 You grieve well. You grieve deeply those whom you love deeply.
that's
Right.
right.
That's the way God made us.
That's right.
But you don't really, we sometimes people say I love you. Some people say that more easily than others. It really takes time,
hmm
doesn't it?
It
Years
does.
to develop those deepest, most profound relationships,
Mhm.
the ties that bind,
Right.
right?
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
you do when you first join the staff, you kind of, those that had been here longer, you kind of, when they're talking about all these people that died before you came,
Right.
you're thinking,
Sure.
well, I have no context for that.
Right.
But
Yeah.
then you see why they did that, because those people were meaningful and helped them in their ministries and helped them grow themselves. And so you
Yeah.
understand, but you're exactly right. That can't happen in a year. It
Mhm.
just takes time to
It
grow
takes time.
with
Yeah.
families. So you
Yeah.
have to sit with them when they're mama's dying, and you have to sit with them when their grandchild's born, and when
Yeah.
all these
Right.
times they
Yeah.
remember you being there, and that's a key thing, is to be there.
Uh-huh. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that's very tender and wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for mentioning that. So, if you could start over, and probably don't want to, but if you could start over, is there anything you would do differently?
um I think I would ask for help sooner when I need
Ah,
help,
ah,
and not be afraid to ask questions.
yeah.
Don't think it a weakness to say, I'm just not really sure how to handle this situation.
Hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and whether it's to conduct this in two or four, or
Yeah.
if it's like,
Sure.
this person has come to me with this issue, it's it might be too much for me to handle just the
Hmm.
two of us. When do I go to somebody else? Um, but not to be afraid to reach out to folks and say, this is kind of over. I don't understand. I don't know what to do. What can I do right now?
Hmm.
Um,
That's
so
great.
that would be one thing I would probably do differently. You and I were talking just a little bit before we started. Last year, I was able to get an associate to help me, and that has been life changing for me.
Hmm.
Uh, she serves as chair of fine arts for a school here in town, and her dad is a retired minister of music. Her mom's the organist. She's been wonderful to help with children's choirs and youth choirs, and just very well received by all the folks here at the church. It's gone wonderful. And I should have done that 5 years ago. I should have asked for help.
I see.
I
Oh, okay.
just thought, no, I can do this. I can do this.
Uh,
And so, burnout was near, it was happening because you're just overwhelmed with so much to do.
yeah. Yeah.
And so, having her here, I think honestly, for the first time in 25 years, I don't feel overwhelmed at work right now. I feel
Oh,
like I have
wow.
enough to do, and
Right.
I'm not saying that I don't stay busy all day, every day, but
Right.
it's not like
Right.
you leave it, you're at home all weekend thinking, oh gosh, I didn't get to
Mm.
this, I didn't get to this, or what's this going to happen? So, if I had done that 5 years ago, and then of course, when I went to the personnel committee or pastor or the church and said, what do y'all think about me, having an associate? They immediately responded with a big resounding yes, of course. If we trust you, if you think that's what you need after all this time, um, then we trust that that's what you need. And so, it happened.
Wow.
But that was um, goes back to that first point of just don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be
Yeah.
afraid to say, I don't know the answer to
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Huh. Do you think do you think the reason our sort sometimes doesn't ask for help, especially, like extra staff, and
mhm,
it is because we're afraid we'll be told no,
mhm.
or because there may not be money to do it, and we don't want to face that rejection, or
Well, I think in my case, it was I want them to be sure that they think they're getting their money's worth out of me. And I don't want
ah,
them to think I'm not working hard enough,
oh,
that I'm
okay,
not doing
okay,
enough.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so um, that was all pride, it was all pride.
interesting, yeah,
And I've learned in the last couple of years, people don't sit at home all day, every day thinking, I wonder if Keith's at his desk right now. They do think, wow, is the worship service
right,
prepared and professional and well done,
right,
but they're not worried so much about if I'm here by 8:30 every morning and still sitting here at 5. I just don't, and they don't think that about any of our ministers. I can't think of
right,
anybody that thinks that way, 'cause they know we work hard
sure,
and we do well. Uh, but yeah, I think that was just probably a prideful thing. I want to
mm,
make sure that they think,
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
doing enough. I don't want to
Right, right. Well, I,
not
I
work.
I hear what you're saying, and I commend you for having a strong work ethic. I mean,
Mhm,
that's a good thing. That's we're not we're not just serving the local church. We hope that we're serving the kingdom of God in some way.
mhm,
Uh, but yeah, yeah. Thank you for being so transparent to share that. Yeah.
mhm. Well, and
Um,
the other thing you do when that happens is you overplan. You plan too much stuff because you're thinking, well, if they don't see if there's, 3 children's choir things this semester and, 2 youth choir things and there's a hymn festival and there's Easter and, you got to have all these things
uh,
going on. So they think,
yeah.
you really, and then I've learned, no, I mean, people have lives outside of the 4 walls of this place.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you really focus on quality versus quantity, then people are going to appreciate that. And they also will appreciate that you recognize they have jobs and they have
Right.
families and their kids are, playing baseball in addition to being in children's choir, and they're doing some other
Mhm.
things to help them to balance their lives because they want to do it all. But we need to do what we can to help them make church, of course, I think the priority over all that stuff, but overwhelming them with more and more rehearsals and performances and all that kind of stuff is not a way to endear them. They'll just
Right.
quit. I mean, they'll just quit,
Yeah.
because they feel like they're either can't do it or going to let me down or let the church down. And so
Mm,
it's just
yeah, yeah. And if anything, we want people to be more engaged, not
right.
less engaged.
That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah. Wise
Absolutely.
words indeed, Keith. Well,
Absolutely.
this has been such a great conversation, and I really appreciate your time today. Uh, Final thoughts. What advice would you give to say an early career or mid-career church musician?
Well, I think as you're looking at taking a job if you're looking at switching jobs, um, I've learned I would choose the pastor and not the church.
Ah, yeah,
Um, I
yeah.
think I was talking with a former church member who's taken another church job in the last week, and they wanted to know the search committee of that place had called me to ask for a recommendation or whatever. And I told them that. I said, I've told this person to choose not your church, but to choose your pastor because I've learned in my time here the relationship with the pastor is so critical in order to, to get worship in a way that we're all happy with and the church is happy with and God's happy with. And also to support you when you want to make some changes. They'll understand why you're doing it because you're going to spend a lot more time with that person than the church. And so um, I think that's an important thing for me. I was trying to look. Um, I think also is to be patient.
Hmm.
Don't try to do too much too soon. You
Yeah.
may have 25 years to get this stuff done,
Hope so.
so you
Hope
don't
so.
have to change everything or have everything. And if things don't go your way the first time or two, it's okay.
Mm,
People are very loving and for the most part will let you make mistakes because you're going to, as a young minister, you're
yeah.
going to make mistakes. You're going to program the wrong thing, or you're going to have too many rehearsals, or you're not going to have enough rehearsals,
Yeah.
or
Hey, we
something
may
like
make mistakes as an old minister.
that's right. Yes, it happens. I don't want to go into that, but yeah, it does.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
I mean, find a mentor too. Find a
Mhm.
polyphony. Find a old person who'd be willing to talk with you through those things when you don't know the answers to things, because there are some things only other music ministers know.
Yeah,
And so I think community and peer learning groups are so important to keep active and to keep going as well.
right, right. The great words. Honestly, it was probably I probably hit mid-career before it dawned on me. I need a community of friends to get through this. I probably had 20 more years to go. A brochure came across my desk one time that was offering a series of retreats that they claimed, and it turned out to be so, was an antidote to isolation. And I remember looking at that brochure. I was at Providence Baptist Church in Charlotte, and it just that phrase grabbed me, an
Mhm,
antidote to isolation.
mhm,
And it's began to dawn on me in various ways. I was just operating so much with sort of a lone ranger mentality.
mhm,
I've got to do it all, and I needed companions for the journey.
mhm,
And shame on me for
mhm,
waiting until my
mhm.
mid 40s
Right.
for that light bulb to come on. But thank you so much for wise words for us all, no matter what stage of vocational career we're in. And again, we celebrate your 25 years, your 30 years of music ministry, and 25 years at Rome. Um, it's my pleasure to call you friend and colleague. We had the experience of being in a cohort together last year, and that was a great thing. And I wish you many more years of flourishing and thriving ministry and life. Thank you so much for being with us today and for sharing some wisdom to our Polyphony community.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. So, folks, hope you've enjoyed this conversation, and we wish you also that your ministry flourishes in every way. So, from us to you, breathe, bless, and be well.